Good morning again, everybody. This is our new book. It's a collection of short stories, and it's called Lucky Dogs, Lost Hats, and Dating Don'ts. Okay, so we're going to start with the one called Sneezes. All right, and there will be a few questions in the back, and usually we do reflections after I read both stories. But this one, I'm going to sort of break our tradition, and we'll do some reflections after we read this story. And this is by Thomas Fish, these stories, and Julian Ober. Okay, here we go. Sneezes. Katie and Ed work together at a deli called Pastrami. Katie keeps things neat and clean and helps get the deli ready for business each day. Ed cuts and weighs all the meat and cheeses and vegetables for the deli sandwiches. Achoo! Ed sneezed again. Bless you again, said Katie. You keep sneezing. I hope that I don't catch a cold from you. Oh, don't worry. I always cover my mouth with my sleeve when I sneeze. Besides, you wash your hands so much, you couldn't catch a cold if you tried. Ed replied as he stuck out his tongue at Katie. Katie stuck her tongue back out at Ed. She knew that Ed was only joking around. They had become friends over the past few months. But when she first started working at the deli with Ed, it was a different story. At first, Katie didn't think that Ed liked her because he called her persnickety. Katie did not know what this meant, so she talked with her job coach, Gus. Gus thought that Ed was probably teasing Katie because she was very thorough and focused on details. She spent a lot of time setting up the tables and chairs, filling the salt and pepper shakers, and neatly stacking the sandwich wrappers. When Katie asked Ed why he called her persnickety, she realized he was complimenting her on the tidiness of the deli's dining room. Ed said that he would stop calling her persnickety, but Katie decided she liked this new word. Ever since then, Katie and Ed have been friends. They pass the work hours before the deli opens by teasing each other and working, of course. Well, I haven't missed a day of work since I started here 8 months ago, and you have missed 5 days of work. Washing my hands keeps me from getting sick. You should wash your hands more, said Katie. Well, I wash my hands all the time, silly goose. Plus, I always wear gloves when I handle the meat and cheese, Ed said. It's just allergies anyway. Every spring I sneeze and cough and feel stuffed up. So, can I stop saying bless you when you sneeze? I've already said bless you 9 times this morning. Katie had been counting the sneezes. She was very good at remembering numbers. Sure, but if you sneeze, I'm not going to say bless you either. Ed was smiling as he turned to see Katie carefully filling the pepper shakers with pepper. Have fun filling those pepper shakers, Ed laughed, because he knew that pepper often makes people sneeze. That's just fine. I don't plan on sneezing. You're the one. Chew. Oh, great. Now I just sneezed. And there's a picture of Katie sneezing. And Ed laughed. A few days later, Ed was sneezing a little less, but now he had a sore throat and a cough. Katie noticed that Ed wasn't as happy or as talkative as usual. She didn't like that. She thought Ed should go to see the doctor. But when she told him so, he would just say, it's allergies. One morning, as Katie greeted Ed, she noticed that he looked very tired. Are you okay? She asked. I am. I'm just tired. I didn't get any sleep last night because I couldn't stop coughing. These allergies are getting old. Why is it so hot in here? Ed asked. It's not hot, it's cold, Katie said. Whatever you say, but stickity, Patty. But Ed decided he would go check the thermostat himself to see how hot it was. Katie was right. It was cold. Why was he so hot? He wondered if he had a fever. And then he wondered who would prepare the meat and cheese for the busy lunch rush if he went home. So he decided to stay and tough it out, as his father would say. An hour later, the deli was about to open. Ed had only cut half the meat and cheese he was supposed to. He was feeling very tired. He was thinking about how nice it would be to lie down on the bench by the front door and go to sleep. Just then, Ed and Katie's manager, Sophia, walked into the deli. Whoa, Ed, you're running a bit behind this morning. Is everything okay? Sophia asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I'm working more slowly than usual this morning. He placed a large pile of provolone cheese in the deli case. If you could hand me, Ed began to say, but he started coughing and he couldn't stop. He knew how important it was not to cough next to any of the food. So Ed walked away from the deli counter and sat down at a table. Katie looked up from the window she was cleaning. This cough sounded painful. In fact, Ed looked like he was in pain. Ed, you are sick, she said. Sophia walked over to Ed and placed her hand on his forehead. Holy cow, Ed, you're burning up. You need to leave right now. I would head straight to the doctor's if I were you. Well, I can't leave. What about the rest of the turkey and the Swiss cheese? Ed asked. Let me worry about the turkey and cheese. You're too sick to be at work. Sophia wanted the deli to be ready for the lunch rush, but she knew it was more important for Ed to get better. Okay, I'll go. But don't forget, we need egg. Swiss cheese for today's sandwich special, Ed said, as Sophia was pushing him out the door. Katie and I have it covered, Eddie. Now go. Sophia shut the door behind him and turned to look at Katie. You seem to have everything finished out here in the dining room. Can you help me load the deli case? I haven't done that before, but I think I can, Katie replied. And then Katie got nervous. She thought about calling her job coach, Gus, but there wasn't enough time. She would have to start a new task without Gus's help. Sophia been cutting. She started to cut the rest of the turkey. Sophia asked Katie to go to the refrigerator to get a big block of Swiss cheese on the second shelf. Katie walked down the hallway to the refrigerator. Katie opened the big, heavy door, but the refrigerator was so large, 2 people could fit inside. There was a lot of food in there. Katie looked around and saw ham, roast beef, salami, tomatoes, onions, pickles, cheddar cheese, provolone cheese. By now, Katie had forgotten what Sophia asked her to get. Was it provolone cheese or was it mozzarella cheese? Katie got nervous again. She didn't want to bring Sophia the wrong cheese. Should she take a guess? And then she had an idea. Katie remembered that the cheese was for today's special sandwich. All she had to do was go to the dining room and look at the whiteboard that said, today's special. Everything on the sandwich would be listed there. Katie walked into the dining room, past the kitchen where Sophia was cutting turkey. Sophia spotted Katie and asked, hey, Katie, did you bring the cheese with you? Katie stopped and said, not yet. I'm sorry, Sophia. I forgot what kind of cheese you wanted. I was just going to look at the whiteboard because it is the cheese on today's special sandwich. Sophia replied, great idea, Katie. While you're looking, can you tell me what kind of bread we need for the sandwich? I forgot. Katie smiled. She felt relieved. She'd been afraid that Sophia would be upset with her. But instead, Katie was not able to help Sophia with something that she forgot. Katie decided to read all the sandwich ingredients out loud in case they both forgot anything else. Let's see. Onions, Ed's Onion Delight. Enjoy fresh sliced turkey piled high on an onion bagel with Swiss cheese, bacon, tomato, lettuce, and onions. Ed suggests our sour cream and onion chips on the side. Gosh, Ed must like onions a lot, Katie said to Sophia. Well, I think you're right, Katie. I'm not a fan of onions. What about you? Sophia asked. No, I don't like them. They make my breath smell bad, Katie answered. Yeah, they can do that. Maybe we should give one of those red and white peppermints to anyone who orders a special today, Sophia said. And she smiled at Katie, who was on her way back to the refrigerator to get the Swiss cheese. Katie smiled back and replied, great idea. I'll bring a bag of mints from the storage closet after I get the Swiss cheese. Thank you, Katie, Sophia said. Katie walked happily down the hallway to the refrigerator. Ed called later and said that he would need the next 3 days off of work. The doctor told him he had an infection in his lungs. He would need to take medicine to get better. Katie and Sophia were glad they made Ed go to the doctor. I'll come in early the next few days to fill in for Ed, Sophia told Katie. Maybe you can help me a little. I'm not as fast as Ed. Katie smiled and replied, I would be happy to help. Katie looked forward to learning new things at work. She decided that pastrami was the best place in the world to be. And that's the end of our first story. And you guys, I just remembered that since we are taping it would break our tape if we stopped to discuss this. So I'm going to go on with the next book that I brought you all from Colorado Springs. Okay. It's about our Indigenous brothers and sisters, and this particularly stories about these two brothers. And I got this from the Manitou Cliff Dwellers. I don't know, you can see this is where people, it's a museum, it's an architectural museum that was built like 115 years ago to show us how the cliff dwellers used to live in their homes, built right into the cliffs. Okay, so this is a story, and this is based on what Indians used to do out in the southwestern part of our country. They used to herd buffaloes over a cliff because this way the Indian people could use the buffalo meat. I'm going to read you a list of what they did. The meat was eaten immediately or dried for further use. The buffalo skins were tanned and made into teepees and soft skirts, shirts, and moccasins. The buffalo robes kept out the winter's chill. The bones from the buffalo were shaped into needles, scrapers, and other tools. The horns were used for drinking cups and ladles, and the rib bones made wonderful sleds. Pouches from the bladders were waterproof. Intestines became the war charms. Buffalo hair and strips of hide were woven into ropes, and the skulls were used in religious ceremonies. And I'm just reading you that so that you'll understand that when the buffaloes were driven over the cliff, they were honored, they were respected, and they were thanked for giving life to the American Native peoples. All right. So here's our story. It's called The Buffalo Jump. And this gives you an idea of what buffaloes look like when they're stampeding. Okay. Little Blaze threw back the buffalo robe covering the lodge entrance. He picked up his bow and arrows from where he had thrown them. He knew a brave must always treat his weapons with respect, but now he didn't care. An angry fire flared inside him. He notched an arrow and aimed at a raven. Little Blaze remembered that the raven was good medicine for his people. He would bring bad luck upon his family if he harmed the bird. Still, Little Blaze wanted to strike out against something, anything, to make him feel better. And there he is with his bow and arrow in front of his teepee. And there's other members of the tribe behind him. Beautifully illustrated picture. Little Blaze ducked behind the lodge when he saw Morning Eagle. His friend had seen him disappear and easily discovered Little Blaze. "Why are you hiding from me?" asked Morning Eagle. "I don't want to see anyone," growled Little Blaze. "Even me? Aren't we friends?" "Yes, you're my friend, but even a friend can do nothing for me." "Tell me, what spirit angers you?" said Morning Eagle. "It's no spirit, it's my father." "Your father?" asked Morning Eagle. "What has he done that his son storms around camp like someone possessed by an evil spirit?" "My father has chosen Curly Bear, my brother, to be the Awawaki, the buffalo runner. He will stampede the buffalo over the jump tomorrow," Little Blaze said. "Well, Curly Bear is your brother, like you said. He will bring glory to your family." "But I can run faster than he can," Little Blaze cried. He angrily yanked a handful of grass from the earth. "Doesn't your father know this?" "My father knows this, but he still says that Curly Bear will lead the buffalo over the jump because he is the eldest son. As second son, I must stay behind the stacked stones and only help frighten the buffalo." Okay, and there are the two friends talking to each other. "Your father has spoken. You must obey him," Morning Eagle said. "Well, my father is wrong. Curly Bear may be as fast as the antelope, but I am as fast as the wind," Little Blaze said, tossing the grass into the air and watching the wind carry it away. "I should lead the buffalo over the jump. Besides, I'm tired of my name. I want to change it like you did. I hate the child's name, Little Blaze." Morning Eagle looked at his friend. He saw the disappointment in his face and he saw the anger in his heart. "There is nothing to be done," said Morning Eagle. "You can't change your name until you do something brave. You must forget your anger. Come, let's hunt along the river bottoms for deer. Maybe he will bring us his good luck." "No," said Little Blaze, "you go alone." And there's the little Blaze, and he's tossing the grass into the air. And he says, I can run as fast as the wind that carries this grass. Little Blaze watched Morning Eagle until he was out of sight, and then he turned and walked in the other direction. Little Blaze walked fast, and then he began to run, and he threw away all thoughts of his brother and the jump, and he let his feet carry him where they would. And as he ran, Little Blaze felt his anger fading away, just as a crackling fire dies out at night. And there he is, he's running and running and running over the prairie. Little Blaze found himself at the Pinson, the buffalo jump cliff. He stopped at the edge and looked down. Far below, he could see the smoke-white buffalo bones from his tribe's earlier jumps.
Hey, Bobby. You've been muted. I accidentally muted you. Sorry.
Okay. Shall I go back one page? Okay. Little Blaze watched Morning Eagle until he was out of sight, and then he turned and walked in the other direction. Little Blaze walked fast, and then he began to run, and he threw away all thoughts of his brother and the jump of the buffalo, and let his feet carry him where they would. And as he ran, Little Blaze felt his anger fading away, just as a crackling fire dies out at night. And there he is. He's running, and he ends up at the Pinson, the buffalo jump cliff. He stopped at the edge and looked down, and far below he could see the smoke-white buffalo bones from his tribe's earlier jumps. He kicked a stone over the edge and watched it bounce down the steep slope. Many times before, Little Blaze had seen his people drive a buffalo herd over the cliff. Each jump meant food for his people and new buffalo skins for robes and lodges. A jump was also a chance for the Awawaki to earn the new name. If only his father would let him lead the herd to the cliff. Little Blaze turned away from the edge. He walked between the stacks of stones, marking the entrance to the jump. The twin rows of stone stacks opened wide like the jaws of a hungry wolf. He knew tomorrow he would be standing behind one of the stone piles, waiting to leap up and frighten the charging buffalo. Okay, so edge of the cliff, there he is. Okay, now I want you to see this little, it's called a cup. And that's where the leader of the buffalo jump has to land so he doesn't fall with the buffalo all the way down to the bottom, that little bit of a ledge. Suddenly, Little Blaze turned around, and he began running with all of his might to the edge of the cliff. Little Blaze ran faster and faster. In front of him was the empty air beyond the cliff's edge. In the distance, he could see where the earth and sky met once again. Without stopping, Little Blaze ran over the edge of the cliff. The air whizzed by, and then, as he knew he would, Little Blaze landed in a small cup of rock jutting out from the cliff. Many braves had landed on this thin ledge as hundreds of buffalo flashed by to their deaths below. Little Blaze lay in the cup, catching his breath and dreaming he was leading the herd tomorrow. If only he would be the Awawaki. He already knew what new name he would choose. But it was only a dream. His father had spoken. And there he is, up in the air. And there's the cliff he's going over. That is confidence. As the sun sank behind the backbone of the World Mountains, Little Blaze returned to the camp. He hastily ate his dinner and lay down on his buffalo robe bed. In the morning, Little Blaze joined the other warriors for their daily swim. And then after a quick breakfast, he followed the men and boys as they walked the trail to the buffalo jump. Long before the sun rose into the sky, Curly Bear had gone in search of the buffalo. No one knew when he would find the herd to drive back, but they must be prepared when he returned with a thundering herd. And there he is sleeping. Okay, today's the day, and there he goes out with the other warriors for their daily bath before the hunt started. Now they're at the ground where the buffalo are going to be herded, and each warrior positioned himself behind one of the stacks of stones. Little Blaze hid with Morning Eagle. The sun burned down. Little Blaze and Morning Eagle gave up battling the biting flies. The heat made the land dance in the distance. Both boys strained their eyes for the dust of the approaching buffalo herd. Morning Eagle saw the cloud of dust first. There, beyond the last pile of rocks, he cried. Little Blaze squinted until he saw it too, and then he ran to his father. They come, we saw their dust, he said. Aya, you're right, my son. Your brother leads a good herd. Now quickly, get back to your place, said his father. Little Blaze squinted back. Now he could see Curly Bear running swiftly in front of the small herd of buffalo. Ah, we will eat well tonight, Little Blaze whispered Morning Eagle. Yes, it is a good buffalo herd, Little Blaze said, with only a hint of sadness in his voice. I only wish it was me out in front. Well, maybe next year your father will choose you, suggested Morning Eagle. And there they are, positioned behind the stones. Okay, you can see, just barely see there's white dust in the distance with the buffalo thundering towards them. Little Blaze grunted and kept looking at the herd. He could see Curly Bear very well now, and suddenly he grabbed Morning Eagle. Curly Bear is not very far in front of the herd. Aya, you're right. The buffalo were running down. The stampeding herd was an arrow shot behind Curly Bear as he reached the first stack of stones. The braves leaped into the air, waving skins and shouting. The frightened buffalo entered the funnel of rocks. The hard hoofs of the buffalo beat the earth like thunder. Curly Bear slowed down just when he needed to be running his very fastest. Curly Bear passed the third, the fourth, the fifth stone stack, and at each one the braves shouted and waved. Buffalo gained on Curly Bear until they were less than a spear's throw behind his tiring feet. There they are. They're catching up too quickly. As Curly Bear neared Little Blaze's stack, he turned and looked back. He never saw the sharp stone sticking up in front of him. Curly Bear hit the rock running and tumbled into a heap. Little Blaze dashed to his brother. He grabbed Curly Bear under his arms and yanked him to his feet. The ground rocked with the crash of the buffalo.
You say,
Set it right here. Right, they're almost on top of the two boys. Little Blaze ran with Curly Bear to the cliff's edge. The buffalo got closer and closer, and then, like stones dropped into a pond, the two boys disappeared. The stampeding buffalo followed, and one by one, the herd plunged over the cliff. And there are the boys just before they jumped, and there are the buffalo immediately behind them. In the narrow cup, Little Blaze hugged his older brother, and close to their heads, sharp hooves clawed wildly for the suddenly missing ground right above them. The earth shook as the buffalo crashed far below the huddled boys. And then a strange silence filled the air. Little Blaze looked up. No more buffalo hurled past them. He lifted Curly Bear to his feet, and the boys watched the tribe gather below to butcher the dead buffalo. Little Blaze heard a voice call from above them. Come, my sons, the sun has shone on our tribe. Let us celebrate this good jump, and let us celebrate the brave deeds of both of my sons. And they can hear their father calling them, and they're both safe. That night, after a huge meal of boiled buffalo ribs, Little Blaze was called before his father in front of the whole tribe. Little Blaze, today, without thinking of your own safety, you ran in front of the buffalo and saved your brother's life. When any warrior does a deed of courage, he is given a new name to honor his act. I give you the name, Charging Bull. Aye, Charging Bull. Little Blaze could scarcely believe his father's words. Just the name he had wanted for himself. He felt a warm glow spreading through his body like sunshine after a storm. Charging Bull, a good name. It was a name that would be spoken with pride around Blackfeet campfires for many moons to come. And I suppose this is him, Charging Bull, as he has become a warrior himself. And he's looking over the cliff, and there's the saving little ledge that he and his brother were saved and had the buffalo jumped over. So that's my story, the buffalo jump, from when I was last week when I wasn't with you, but I found this great book. So now we can talk about what we just read.